Even just reserving time to think and talk about money is the first step. What would the perfect investment be? Well, here's the punchline. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
I love how you refer to yourself as a financial life designer.
I help my clients use the money that they work so hard to earn to design the life they want to live. I think women are often just like wait until the new job, wait until I find a partner, wait until this to make these big financial moves. And like that is, again, shotgun in the foot.
It's like, well, if I do it this way, then it has to stay this way forever and ever and ever. And it's like, no, you can always change, right? You can always be flexible.
Well, you just have to have a plan.
As far as timing goes, is it ever too late for a woman in midlife to get involved, start investing, but in order to truly to build real wealth?
No, it's never too late. Homo sapiens cannot live on a budget. They can't.
Thank you. You need to talk to my husband about that.
Success, the way that I define success with my clients is, are you getting what you want when you said it, you wanted it, with who you wanted it, and the way you wanted it, and how you wanted it?
Today's guest is someone I genuinely believe every woman needs in her corner. Not just because she understands money, but because she understands the life behind the money. Hayley Dickson is a wealth advisor and financial strategist known for helping successful women and families build intentional, long-term wealth. After beginning her career in entertainment, she transitioned into finance, became one of the fastest-growing advisors at Northwestern Mutual, and eventually launched her own firm focused on transparency, strategy, and designing financial lives that actually align with who you are. And that's why this conversation matters. Because by the time we reach our 40s and 50s, we're not just earning, we're making decisions that shape the next 20, 30, even 40 years of our lives. Marriage, divorce, risk, reinvention, legacy, the question of whether we're actually building wealth or just maintaining a lifestyle. If you've ever felt confident on the outside but quietly unsure about what's really happening with your money, this episode is for you. So before we dive in, take a second and tap follow wherever you're listening. It helps this show grow and it helps more women find these conversations. And it makes sure you never miss an episode like this one. We're talking about midlife wealth, blind spots smart women still have, what real financial independence looks like, and how to feel powerful, not just financially, but emotionally, in the decisions you're making. Hayley, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Iconic Midlife, Hayley. How are you today?
Oh, thank you, Roxy. I'm so excited to be here and make money sexy. That's my favorite thing.
Oh, we love sexy money. I mean, that just is the best turn on, right? That's so cool. Well, I loved reading about your story because you are this magnate, financial advisor, but you actually started out in reality television. So kind of talk a little bit about, this whole trajectory. I think it's so interesting. But also, before I forget, you and I are both from Texas too. So we've got the Texas girl situation under our belt, but I would love to hear about the whole origin story.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, in the entertainment world, I came out here when I was in my mid 20s and accelerated up that entertainment, world ladder in 10 years. And I went from an assistant to an SVP, and I did international television distribution and, kind of living the vision of me in stilettos and in business class, traveling to Cannes and London and all of that sexy, stuff. Actually, you're in, pajamas, as you know, not stilettos when you're business class traveling. But I got to this point where I just didn't feel like I was meant to be in the entertainment world anymore, talking about content and not having an impact in the world. And that felt crazy to me because who has a why in their work? And, in 2016, I left with no net, as I call it, and was kind of figuring out where my skills are transferable and how I can reinvent myself when I was 33 and I had a 6-month-old baby and a husband in business school and thought about real estate. And then I'm like, I don't really care about property, and came across this idea of being a financial advisor and really understanding, the qualitative and quantitative element of it. And it just felt perfectly aligned with my love of coaching, my love of strategic advice, and my love of helping people do things they never thought they could do in a way that is really fun and adventurous, you know? So, so now I've had Ripple, for 10 years now. And I love what I do. I am meant to do this, and I'm on a revolution to change the way that women experience money and experience partnership. So, yeah.
Why was it so important for you to shine a light on finances, especially for women?
So I had a pretty big ego shift, a humbling experience going from corner office Hollywood exec with an unlimited budget, to gum on a shoe financial advisor, where there's 17 on every corner. And I realized really quickly um, how people in general feel about financial advisors, right? Which is lack of trust. That's typically a white male. No offense to that part of the world. I married one, but mansplaining, and it's 57, and in jargon, and you don't feel safe or secure. And I realized really quickly that I am different. I look different. I talk different. I act different. I plan different. I call myself a financial life designer. And so I realized really early on that the way that I can, in the first 2 or 3, 4 minutes of talking to somebody, shift their energy into heavy, daunting, ugh, why am I here? To this should be a really fun, exciting conversation, money, and the fact that I work so hard to get to where I am. Like, I should be living the life in the way I want to, and that should be fun, right? So that's where I found, like, this is my gift to the world, you know?
In your background, I thought was so interesting because you were giving me a little bit of like insight into that. You moved around a little bit and had what seems to be like a very colorful mom. So tell me a little bit more about that and how that kind of influenced you.
Oh, mama. Hi, mom. Um, my mother is 80. She was born in 1945, and she was married and divorced 4 times by the time I turned 23. So my father was the second, and I had a third and a fourth stepdad. And through that experience, and my mother's an RN, and she was educated and all this kind of stuff. But I saw the turbulence of money and what that creates. And I remember, this is just if I can share a little story here. I remember coming home from sophomore year at college. I went to Vanderbilt. I came home and I was helping my mom pack yet again to move out of one house into another house. And I came across this textbook. It was a textbook assigned to her, 6th grade textbook, home economics. I flip open, it's like dust, you know. I flip the to a chapter that says evenings at home. And it was instructions that says, hey, when your husband arrives home from work, ensure he has a cocktail, most likely a martini, in his hand within 30 minutes. At dinner, make sure you don't talk about your problems and the children remain quiet because he's had enough problems at work. And I'm sitting here, with my mom's Jane Mason, kind of, there and her, pencil script, thinking, what? Like, this is what my mother was taught one generation. And so she was raised to be a wife. That was what she was raised to do, you know? And so, for me, it's like from a very early age, I was determined to be independent, like financially independent, empower women, empower myself, empower, and here I am.
You definitely took that experience and, made it into something that really propelled you, which is so cool, and I think so many of us, want to do that and look to do that. And, I think we kind of hit a point in midlife, especially like post 40, where we are looking around and, there's caregiving, there could be marriage and divorce, there's career pivots, like you had, different things that arise and come up. So for somebody like in their 40s and 50s, where all of these things are kind of playing into one another, what should this woman be paying attention to in order to have the best financial life for herself with all of these different factors going on?
I mean, like you said, there's so much change, in any person's life at any time, but, with taking care of aging parents and the kids and working and being, um, but I think if I could take a step back and just say, even just reserving time to think and talk about money is the first step, because I find it so fascinating that especially with my, really sophisticated career, based women that are really confident and masters of their craft by the time they're 45 to 55, right? Um, and, they have it all together except for money side. And it's kind of covert, secret, epidemic going on where everybody else thinks everybody else has it figured out, but nobody has it figured out. Nobody's talking about it because they've gotten to be such experts in their craft that it feels too vulnerable, or there's a ton of shame there of like woulda, coulda, shoulda, or I know my own P&L, back and forth, but they have no idea what their own balance sheet looks like. And so I would say the first step is just dropping a pin and taking a moment to understand what do you have, and and where's that going to take you, just as a basic step.
Yeah, I mean, is that like okay, so, like, when you wanna kinda go through and just see, is that like a review that you're doing with a financial planner? Is that something you should do, like, just with your partner or, like, just going through like, how do we get, like, an accurate read on everything?
I mean, I guess it depends on if you're a, go to the gym, on your own person and can be disciplined, or if you want a trainer and you go to the gym, or you have to be sent up for a class. I need to be sent up for a class or have a trainer or something of that feature. And so, I think finding the right financial partner, and that's even challenging in and of itself because the landscape is so confusing. But, the world is evolving when it comes to financial partnerships. So it's very much like what I call myself, like a holistic life designer. I'm a CFP, which is the highest credential, and I've got my Series 7 and all that kind of stuff. But I do complete holistic life design. So everything from wealth management to cash flow to the behavioral psychology of all of this. Versus a lot of people out there are just either selling insurance or they're just trying to manage their money, right? So it's like, how do you find that partner that you can have that big conversation with? So that would be, I think if you have a financial advisor right now and you think about what do they do for me other than managing my money, you might want to think about what else is out there because you're not getting your money's worth. If you're paying them a fee on what they manage and they're only managing money and not telling you, hey, do you have a trust? Hey, have you thought about long-term care? Hey, do you have a 529 set up for your kids? What are you doing in terms of tax strategy? It's a huge thing that I do. How can we, instead of can I write off Netflix? Like, how can we save 10 or 20 or 15% off in taxes over the next decade? So back to your question, I mean, I think finding the right partner is critical. And I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm not there yet. I don't have enough yet to be worthy, or I'm not, and there's all different kinds of models out there to find a partner. But if you're on your own and you just want to DIY it, I think making a simple balance sheet, like understanding, I have what's called a financial ecosystem that I can talk about, as well as to how to create your own financial ecosystem so that you have peace and clarity in your financial life, and all the bullshit headlines and all of the president did
Oh,
this and
yeah.
all the shit that, excuse me, creates this
Yes, true.
toxic energy, which creates these limiting beliefs around what's possible for yourself. We got to create your own economy, and in that economy, you flourish. So that's the coaching I do.
See, that's really good because you have to take, take it from within and just like, make the first move really yourself. You have to like put yourself in a good place where you're getting the right information. And I think like to your point, I think there's so much going on in the world today that we don't know half the time like, oh my god, is this going to affect like financial, stress and burden and like all these things. So, like, how do we keep all this straight? Like,
Yeah.
should we be freaked out anytime we hear, something is going on in the world that could, possibly affect our retirement or like our finances in some way? How do we deal with that?
I mean, first of all, you're watching TikTok and there's some guy from Kansas. I love Kansas, whatever, but it's like who's 62 and is saying, this is what you should do. And you're 34 and you're working in tech in San Francisco, like, or you're 55 and it doesn't, that's not relevant. And so I think, what we can control, we can control. And when let me talk about the ecosystem because you can do this with or without, a financial, planning partner. So the goal of the ecosystem is to be able to make decisions based off of what you want in your life outside of external influence. And so, meaning, if inside your ecosystem, we have different buckets of capital, right, that are defined differently. And each bucket has a job description. So one of the buckets is cash or money market, just cash reserves. And on the other bucket is retirement, right? So whether it's Roth or pre-tax, tax deferred, another bucket is property. Another bucket is a non retirement account, just a regular investment account that's accessible and liquid, right? Another bucket might be your business or investing in a friend's business, maybe some crypto, maybe some art or whatever it is. So, but when you think about all these buckets, what's cool is together they create what we call the perfect investment because they all have different pros and cons. And this is really big deal because, if someone comes to me and says, hey, what would the perfect investment be? Well, here's the punchline. It doesn't exist. But if it did, it would have these six qualities. So one, totally liquid, no restrictions, always access it. Number two, tax free, of course, right? Number three would be no risk associated, right? Number four would be little to no skill needed, right? Number five would be, little to no fees, right? And so when we think about, these characteristics, let me give you cash. Cash is super effective. It's there. It's really great. It's liquid. It's no risk, but it's highly inefficient because you're losing purchasing power. A Chipotle burrito is going to be $25 in 10 years. And if you just keep $14 in your, account, you're going to be able to buy half a burrito, right? So then you look at kind of retirement. That's not liquid until you're 60, 59 and a half. Some of it's tax free, some is tax deferred, but we need that because you get a great tax incentive, right? Property is not liquid, but it's a great portfolio diversifier, right? And you've got great overall yield. And then you've got kind of a midterm investment account that's totally liquid. So and why I'm saying this, Roxy, it's so important is that let's say that taxes go up and you're in a place in your life where you need to you're in retirement or you're in a place where you want to take money out of your investment account. Well, maybe you decide to pull from a vehicle that is tax free. Or if markets are up or if markets are down, let's not pull from your market-based vehicles. Let's pull from cash. So all of these things, there's a president elected, there's this happening, right? The interest rates go up so that no matter what's going on outside, you have choices. For us, it's like financial freedom is choices. So if you can have these different buckets that have different purposes and job descriptions, then you can react in a proactive way to what you want and how you're going to live. That makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And from what you're saying too, it sounds like, there's all these different buckets. So it sounds like diversification, which let's say there's a woman in midlife, let's say she's 40, 45, 50, 55, or even older, and she's never invested, like never once done anything, just is sitting on some cash, maybe from, she's been working for, while. So she does have a cash accumulated, but has never invested. Where does she start?
I have
Especially at that age.
I've had so many clients like this, right? They've worked so hard and they're financially independent and they have a really healthy balance sheet, but they are playing into what feels safe when they're actually shooting themselves in the foot, like with a shotgun. Um, and so there's there's three destructors of wealth. I'll mention them, and then, but one of them is exactly what you said. Number one, taxes. Number two, inflation and purchasing power. And number three, emotions. So let's focus on the second, inflation and purchasing power. It is so strange, kind of the way that our emotions play out with money, because we tend to do things that make us feel safe, right? But actually are really setting us up for failure. And so when someone has, or hoarding, I would say, a lot of cash, a lot of, that isn't invested, oh, they just do that because they're afraid that they lost all their money in 2008 or something happened to their parents or they've seen all these horror stories, they're just going to keep it close. They are going to run out of money. You can't, because if inflation is 3% per year and you're making zero, or even if you're making 3%, that's going to be, if you're making zero, you're going to be negative. If you're making 3%, you're going to be, basically at even because of inflation. You'll never be, you're going to be treading water always. Right. And so I think it's important in the ecosystem, to have 3 to 6 to 12 months of expenses, depending if you're W-2 or you're a business owner. in cash. Everything else needs to be working for you in some capacity.
So what do you think is the best way to build passive income in this world? Because I feel like that's another thing too. I mean, I see people that have invested and, not very sexy businesses, let's say laundromats and
Totally.
things like that, right? Like where it's just kind of like, they're getting income, but it's, and it's passive income, but like things like that. Like what are some good ways to really build some passive income?
Well, I think it depends on how much you want to be like involved in this side hustle of yours. I mean, the laundromat, it's I've had a lot of clients like move into that space, or car washes or storage units or vending machines, or things like that. But it is a part-time job, so there's that element of it, and it can work great. Then of course there's investment properties and things of that nature. And I think when people think of passive income, that's not really a term. I think it would be like leveraged income, and because there's always risk in some way. But I think what people forget is, if you have $1 million, let's just say, in the stock market, and it goes up by 10%, well, that's $100,000 of passive income as well. So I think it's a combination of, do you want to be a landlord? Do you want to be involved and learn and listen to the podcasts, and, and find a property manager and go visit the laundromat and, like, right. Then I love that avenue. But a lot of people just say they want to do that, but don't really have the time, especially when you're in your midlife and you have all these other things that are going on. Um, and so I think, one of the things that, it's like your money can make you a lot of money. And one of the fears that people have about putting money in the market is it going down. And so I think education around how to ensure that you never have to pull money out of the market when it's down is important. Understanding that.
Yeah, that's a good point. You never wanna pull money out when the market's down, and I think a lot of people have that default where they're like, "Oh my god." They start like, it starts going down and people are like, "Oh, I better take my money out." But it's actually like, you should not be doing that, right?
What should you be doing if you have capacity?
Right, you should be putting more money in, right? Because it's like,
Boom.
you want it to, like,
Yeah.
keep growing once it comes back up. Yeah, and it's a good time to buy when it's going down.
Yeah. And, remember how I said earlier about, it is so fascinating to me about like how people's emotions and choices and lens through which they may take action um, with things that have to do with money or the stock market is so strange. So let's say that it's a lovely Sunday afternoon. You decide to go shopping and you walk into, a great store, and there's a beautiful dress that's like 40% off. Like you're like, hell yeah, I'm buying that dress. I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna look hot, right? Whereas if the dress was, 40% above the price, you're like, what? This is ridiculous. But people, actually operate exactly like that in the market. So, when things are really expensive and oversold and overvalued, and everyone's talking about how much money they've made, there's FOMO, and so people buy high. And then things fall. So in March of 2020, to give you some statistics, the stock market fell 34% in 22 days. Right? And about 50% of people sold at the bottom or close to the bottom because they panicked. And it's so sad because in that moment, people are so afraid that this time is different. There's never been a global pandemic. There's a bird that's, like there's a COVID. What is happening? Like this is never, the whole world's going to shut down. I better pull all my money. That is normal. That's part of the capital market cycle. It happens. It happened, in 2001 and 2008, and then in Vietnam, savings and loan crisis.com, all these things. What happened that year? It recovered the 34%, and then it grew another 16%. And so that's the third destructor of wealth, emotions.
So we cannot be emotional when we're investing, correct? I mean, if you find something you love, right? I would imagine, okay, that's a good way to maybe use your emotions when you're investing. But like, like if you just let it, your emotions guide you, you might make the wrong choice.
Totally. And so absolutely. But how do you actually put that into practice? There's frameworks. So back to the ecosystem, anything that you put into the market, you should have flexibility on that for at least 2 years. So what I mean is, you know, you know, um, uh, dollars that you put into the market, right? 1 out of every 4 years, markets will turn negative. 3 out of 4 are positive. So a 76% chance that if you put money in Jan 1st and you fast forward 12 months, it's going to be up. That's pretty good, but it's not great. So if someone says to me, is now a good time to invest in the market? I would say, well, what is it for? What is the intention of that money? That's what you need to ask yourself. And if you said to me, Roxy, well, I got to pay my kids' tuition in 6 months, I say, no, because we don't have enough of a runway to understand to be able to ride through the wave. Okay. So if you said to me, I don't know, I just have this cash on hand. I've got, 12 months of expenses in cash. I got another $50,000 that I just need it to work for me and I don't know what to do. And and I just want to grow the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years. Yes, that's the time. So trying not to time the market is now a good time because of politics or markets or this or that. It's, can you afford to ride the wave of the downs? Because the average bear market, meaning when markets are down, is about 1.1 years. The average bull market's 5.5 years.
Ah, okay. So it's much longer.
Much longer, and the returns are also much higher.
So timing, like you have to put the timing into perspective. Like it is going to come back sooner rather than later. I mean, it's going to stay higher than not.
Yeah, like don't try and time the market. That is, you have to be right twice. When to buy and when to sell it. That is one of the biggest, mistakes people make. And one of the biggest mistakes is they wait, and because they're waiting for the right time to put their cash in. I'm just going to wait until this or wait until this thing seems really scary. Well, yeah, because that's how people click on headlines and make you read things. But like, if you have enough safe capital in that bucket of cash reserves and you have stable income, and you don't need those dollars in the next 2 years. Not that you couldn't access them, but just to ride up that wave, like that weight sitting on that cash is just, it's so sad. It makes me so sad for people. Really, they're afraid. You know,
Yeah. As far as timing goes, is it ever too late for a woman in midlife to get involved, start investing, but in order to truly like to build real wealth?
definitely
Is
not.
it ever too late? Okay, it's never too late.
No, it's never too late. What's the saying? When's the best time to plant a tree? Yesterday. The next best time is today. But I mean, I am so blessed and honored to serve, women, at 45 to 55. A lot of them, I serve the couples, and whether it's a heterosexual or, or a queer couple or whatever, but I have a lot of single women that I serve in this space. And it's so very special because there's a lot of heightened emotion because no one ever talked to them about money. It was taboo. No one taught them. We don't learn it in school
Right.
ever. But then
Right.
there's this weird pressure from society that we're supposed to understand money. It's like if I had to like wire my house with electricity, I'm not going to like Google how to do it. I'm going to hire someone to come in and do it. And so, but there's this pressure that comes from our parents, but also, everybody has that dude typically. It's like, I shorted Tesla, blah, 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 and like says like S&P this and that, and you just are like, oh, I don't know this. I'm just going to be in denial of shame. So to be that person to educate from a non-jargon, like my clients and these women are so smart. They're sophisticated. They're and so I'm not going to insult their intelligence by not explaining to them what the input can be into your freedom formula. That's what I call it, a wealth building system that is going to be explosive for you. And so being able to be there for them, and like, especially if they don't have a partner and they expected to have a partner and they didn't think that they'd be at this place in their life at 52 or whatever it is, making decisions on their own. Should I sell the property? Should I buy the property? Like these questions, like I'm their financial life partner. It's a wonderful thing to be.
Yeah, and thank goodness they have you, because you need somebody to bounce off ideas like that.
Yes.
And yeah, so I mean, thank goodness. What is exciting you right now as far as like investments go? Is there anything new that's kind of coming up that you're like, wow, 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 this is going to be good?
Yeah. Um, Without giving any specific investment advice,
Yes.
um,
You're
uh,
like, yeah, you're like, disclaimer.
yeah, it's so funny because all of
Totally.
these people that aren't licensed and don't have designations and aren't actually financial planners can talk whatever they want because they're not regulated. But then people like me that actually know what they're talking about, like can't. So anyways, um, So let me share a big trend right now. So that's an immediate thing that you can do, your listeners can do. Um, so right now, there is an evolution in like what uh, asset classes people think are going to grow. So let me just back up for a second. Asset classes. I say that and people are like, I don't know what that is. An asset class is just a way to classify a company. So one asset class is US stock, and then there's large companies, large cap, middle-sized companies, mid cap, small companies, small cap, basic. Another one is international, and there's international developed and international emerging, international companies. Now, these international companies are things like Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, Ray-Ban sunglasses, Sephora, BP, Unilever. These are, companies that Anheuser-Busch that people are very aware of. So what tends to happen is it's cyclical, where US domestic companies outperform international and then international outperforms domestic. We have been in a 20-year, 2-decade cycle of US crushing international. Only US, but giant cap tech companies, right? The Magnificent Seven. So we're talking the Apple, the Amazons, right? The Alphabets, the Nvidia, the Netflix, right? The Microsoft. And so I bet if you pull up your portfolio right now and you look at what percentage of my portfolio is exposed to the S&P 500 or US stock, you'll be heavily weighted into US because that's what's done really well the last couple. So there's what we call recency bias. And this is, if I could put a billboard up all over the country, I would do this. So what happens is this is cyclical, right? So if you look back the last 5 decades, 3 out of the last 5 international outperformed. So as the dollar weakens, which, it is weakening, having a diversified portfolio, having exposure to the international marketplace is so critical, right? And if you look at last year, the S&P 500 large cap returned 70%. International emerging developed were 30% and 32%. And so you're seeing this trend. And I'll add on top of that is, it's easy to say, you know what, I know Apple, I'm going to invest in Apple. Or these are things that you're familiar with, where it's not as easy to say what company in India or what company, that's why there's index funds and ETFs. But if you look at your portfolio and you are heavily percentage into US, I would, seriously think about the power of diversification and what asset classes, like international as an example, are undervalued, in our perspective, and being able to kind of ride that value up. Um, Again, not investment advice, but just something to really think about with your recency bias of how do we, again, if we take some chips off the table, we've made some great money and put those chips back into things that have a greater upside potential and less downside potential. So I got a little techie there, but I think that's a good
No.
action item.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, what are your thoughts on like all this Bitcoin stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, my thoughts on Bitcoin is that it is so let's go back to the ecosystem. Within the ecosystem, Bitcoin is super, super, super high risk. Now, that could mean super, super, super high return, or it could mean zero, right? That's the relationship between risk and return. And so I would put in that category, art or investing in your buddy's wine bar or, something that high risk can be really great return, but can also go to zero. And so for Bitcoin, I can't make any, recommendations on whether to invest in Bitcoin or not. I can say that I have some in Bitcoin, but in general, I would say you want to look at your net worth and say in that super high risk bucket, maybe you have 3 to 5% of your net worth in that bucket. So that if it hits really big, like you're in it. But if it goes to zero, it's a bummer and we'll be sad, but it doesn't derail your financial life design, your financial plan. And that's so critical.
That's so critical. But then you look at those stories, where these people got in on Bitcoin right at the beginning and put in, I don't know, 10 grand or something. And now they're like multi millionaires, just living the life. So it's like sometimes you just don't know when things are going to hit, like when they do, you know?
Yeah, but you don't hear the stories, and I have many clients this happened to that did the same, got really greedy, and then lost their entire net worth. So it goes both ways. You just hear the good ones usually. No one's out there broadcasting the crappy mistakes they made, only the amazing, brilliant ones when it comes to investments.
Yeah, they're not like, "Oh my god, I
Look
lost
at
my
this dumb decision I made. Let me
Yeah,
write about it. No one does that. And so
exactly.
that's why it's even more intimidating because you only hear half the stories or less.
Right, right.
You
It's
know?
true, it's true. Now, what should we be preparing for? Because life events happen, right? So it's like aging parents, kids are going to college. Like, what are the best ways that we can prepare for those things? Like, are there special accounts that we should have? Are there, places where we should be putting our money in preparation for those things? Even our own retirement, because that's also not in midlife, not too far off.
Yeah, I call retirement work optional. Because it's like, especially with in midlife, like sometimes, I'll meet people that are 55 and they're like, I'm ready to be done yesterday. And then some people that are like, I'm never going to stop working. And neither of those things are true. So, in retirement for our parents, it was like, woohoo, IBM, 40 years, pension, there's the kid on the bike. I have my Arnold Palmer. I'm waving. I'm walking my dog. Like, that's not how life is anymore. Like, that's just, we're so dimensional and so dynamic. And so, I call it a change of pace or work optional. So at some point, Roxy, I'll use you, right? You're going to want to be work optional. Now, you love what you're doing. So you might keep doing this forever or you wouldn't be doing it. Right. And so there is a point at which I want my clients to have the choice to stop working, but they don't have to stop working. So maybe they want to, not make as much money and hustle as much at their W-2 job at Netflix or for whatever, and they want to be on a board or consult. And so, I think it's really important for, on the retirement side to think about, you know, what's possible for me a lot of the time with these women and I'm 43, so like, but like the 45 to 55, like it's unbelievable how much they've accumulated, how great they've done, and how little they believe that they have. Like they still believe that they don't have enough. And I'm like, I'm showing you mathematical forecasts, and it takes them months, if not years, to actually believe that they're safe.
Wow. I think that is so fascinating because, like you're saying, these women are like successful, they have all the things, like they've done well for themselves. Like, so why is that? Why do they have this like block when it comes to that? And what are the biggest mistakes that they are making as it relates to,
Yeah.
financial planning?
I mean, they go to worst case scenario. Well, what if I lose my job? What if, and what if I'm never able to get a job again? And I'll say, well, have you ever been unemployed for more than 6 months, 12 months? Well, no, no. And you've been working for how long? 35 or 40 years? Okay, got it. So if that happens, we'll have a plan because we have that safe bucket of capital, but let's not plan for it. They plan for like, well, what if this? What if that? And it's like the 1% chance that something's gonna happen, they're putting faith in that 1% with 80% of their thoughts in action. So we have to have a plan for that, but it's not the plan. Right. And I think that's a huge part of it. And coupled with the fact that their entire relationship with money has been often from a place of denial, shame, frustration, really not understanding it, being taught it's taboo to talk about, feeling heavy about it. They probably all have financial advisors, or many of them do, but they don't like them. They don't even know what they're missing. And so, part of our mission at Ripple is like I said, to make you have more money than you've ever had. You're making more money than you've ever had. You have more choices than you've ever had. So let's create and have fun and make this adventurous. What do you want? Why do you need to wait till 60 to go to Africa when you retire if you can do it at 55? What are we waiting for to experience and accelerate joy? And showing them the math. Because once they see it and experience it, it takes time for them to really think, you know what? I've done really well and I am safe. And I understand that some of the mistakes, if I keep 35% of my net worth in cash, I will not be able to maintain joy and to maintain the lifestyle I want to have. They get it because I show them historical data. This is what can happen with this. This is, you know, and then they're like, oh, I get it. Let's go.
Yeah, as they should and live the life, and I think a lot of it too is like there's some kind of a thing like you're saying we didn't grow up learning about money and like financial literacy, and frankly we were kind of told not to talk about money because it's gauche or it's like tacky, like you shouldn't want to go that shouldn't be like your goal. You should want to be, serving others and making sure everyone else is okay, and like, oh, that's so gross that you just want to, go for the money or what have you, which I think has like done such a disservice for women, especially in our age group now, because it's like we've gone through this programming. And it's interesting because I look at my daughter and in her school, they teach financial literacy now, which is amazing. I'm like, that's great that these kids are learning. But I think for us, it takes so much deprogramming of like, you know, all of this. And frankly, I think it's fucking awesome if somebody is like, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to make like, whatever the number
Daddy,
is.
you're
Right. Exactly. Like, why should
embrace it.
we? Yes. Why should
Yeah.
we feel guilty for wanting to be successful, financially or otherwise,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
It's so true. It's like, we're working so hard. We're working so hard. We're putting in the time. We're hustling. But what are we actually working for? Validation, whatever it is, but actually money. That's what we're working for. Yet we don't take the time, even an hour a quarter, an hour a year, to talk about our money and say, this is what my money is doing right now. And this is the life I want to live, which, by the way, part of what I do is cultivating clarity around that because people don't really know and they don't feel like they have permission to dream. And so this is where money, this, and is that connected? Is there a cohesive plan of short-term, midterm, long-term, and retirement planning? And just starting it, testing it. This is the other thing too. It's like, well, if I do this, if I make this choice, what if I don't like it? We'll just change. We'll change.
Yes.
We'll sell the
Here
house,
it is.
or we'll pull it out of the market, or like it's not a forever decision.
Right, exactly. So with that, like how often should we be checking in with our finances, and like should it be like a monthly, something where we're like looking into things monthly or more often or less often? Like what is a good barometer for that?
Monthly is setting up for failure, because people aren't going to do that. I would say, I mean, it depends if you have a financial planner, if you don't have a financial planner. So through what lens do you want me to kind of give you thoughts on that?
Oh, that's a good point. Well, first off, I guess another good resource would be like the best way to find a financial planner also. Like I would imagine that anybody in any sort of investment value portfolio should have some sort of either a financial planner or somebody that can like advise them about what to do, because it's not, how are they going to know, really where to jump in and do all the things. So first off, I think probably maybe that's also like a misconception, is that people think, oh, I need to have X amount of wealth to have a financial planner. But that might not necessarily be true, right?
It really isn't. I mean, there's all different types of partnerships, compensation structure. The most common way in which financial advisors are compensated is a percentage of like the assets, the accounts they manage for you. And that is to serve the top 1%. Okay. Because if you want a really good team, that's actually going to be proactive and guide you, then they're going to say, oh my God, Roxy, you're so amazing. But if you don't have $1 million for us to charge you 1% and make 10,000 a year on, like, come back when you do, like, bye. Like, so a lot of people are shut out from that, but the models are changing. So it's everything from little like monthly, 25, $50 a month for kind of a software that kind of helps you get organized. But then the kind of new emerging model is what's called fee-based planning, and it really democratizes. I mean, it democratizes the financial planning space. So those that there's a type of client that I really love working with, which is, you know, first time seven figure income earner. first time this, first gen college, like, these individuals that have this ambition and drive and hustle and like, and maybe, they're close to a million or they've got, high six figures or mid six figures, and they have tremendous capacity to get to one, two, three, four, whatever it is, but they don't have the resources or the ability to understand how to do that. And so fee based planning is a really great way for if you don't have 500,000 or a million yet, and you have 50,000 or 100,000, you can hire someone, pay them a flat fee for their advice and counsel. Maybe it's anywhere from, $500 a year to $6,000 a year to plus. So like, if you want to look up like fee based or fee only planners, that aren't just going to make commission on your total net worth and not value you or your life or your potential until you're at a million, that's a really great place to start.
That's a good point. I love how you refer to yourself as a financial life designer. Now, how is that different than a financial planner? First of all, you're right. It does sound more sexy, like making like finances sexy. I'm like, definitely yes.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
how does that differ from a typical financial planner?
Well, so there's so many names: a financial planner, wealth management advisor, financial representative, all these different things that make it so confusing for the consumer. So, um, I think one of the most important things, if you want a really quality, holistic financial life designer or financial planner, you want someone that has the CFP, a certified financial planner, CFP. I have that. About only 18% of people that call themselves a financial advisor have that designation. It's the highest planning that you take 2 years of college course, you take the bar of financial planning. And so that just shows you have a real planner, not someone masquerading as a planner that really is just trying to product push, or just gather your assets with a cookie cutter plan. And it's hard to tell that. So CFP, I would say, is an absolute requirement to work with a financial advisor. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
that's huge. So you want to really, investigate and kind of ask them, like, tell me what are all of your services that you offer, right? Like, what are all the things that you do above and beyond just managing money? A lot of people, if you ask that, what do you provide other than managing money? They're like, don't know what to say. A robot can really manage money, I think. You're going to be paying someone just to manage your money. Like, what's the purpose of that? You need real partnership, And so, why do I call myself? I got distracted, Roxy. So, life planner. I think the word financial planner like is so gross. And I just don't like it. Like, I remember when I first moved from my sexy entertainment job, I was at a wedding in the Hamptons and I said for the first time, "Oh, I'm a financial planner." And like the look on these people's face when I met them, like they turned around and went to the bar for another glass of Chard. You know what I'm saying? It was
Right.
like, and so I was
Totally.
like, oh my God, I cannot say that to people. They're gonna think I'm snake oil saleswoman or something. It's just like, so I had to think of something that is actually what I do, which is I help my clients, use the money that they work so hard to earn to design the life they want to live and pay less in taxes and accelerate joy. And like, that's what it is.
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely.
yeah, it's not just about give me your money and let me invest it. It's like success, the way that I define success with my clients is, are you getting what you want when you said it, you wanted it, with who you wanted it and the way you wanted it and how you wanted it? What
Yeah.
else is there?
Yeah. Yeah, I think to your point is like defining success, right? Because it's like your clients probably all have different definitions of success, but what is like for a midlife woman that you're working with? Like, what do you typically hear? Like, what is she saying to you? Like, I want what for the rest of my life?
I want to make sure that I can live my life in a secure and safe environment to where if I live to 103, I'm okay. I don't become a burden on my children. I'm not living off of Social Security. I think longevity is a big thing we got to talk about, right? I mean, because our brains still tell us from a Darwinism biology perspective, we're going to die at 72 and we are not.
Right.
you know?
Right.
And so the issue is that our neurons aren't saying, "Hey, you're 18, start saving money. Let's go. We got to, that doesn't turn on until 45, really. And so, it's that success of like understanding I have built a really beautiful balance sheet. And if I don't take action to get it in the right buckets, like I'm going to be up a creek without a paddle at 78 or 82. Right. And so longevity is a big concern and really modeling out what if you live to 100?
I mean, honestly, like that's the way of the world now. I mean, people are living like, women, it's not unheard of to live into your 80s as a woman and beyond. So that
Yeah,
is like that's a real concern I would think for women, like you're saying, like,
absolutely.
right? I mean, longevity, like it's all about beating the clock,
And
you
so,
know?
so I'll show them, listen, if you spend 8,000 a month, whatever, inflation adjusted, if between the ages of 62 and 100, you're good. And we run it through all these different scenarios, and we optimize and we create tax efficiency. And it's just, I cannot tell you. I mean, I am just so addicted to the feeling of someone feeling safe and secure and empowered in their money. Like that's what financial freedom is: peace and clarity and confidence in your financial world. And there is no reason why we shouldn't all have, I mean, resources, right? Right. But like that, you shouldn't feel that way.
I mean, that's what we want.
Not
That's like we
alone.
want that security. Yes.
And you're not alone. Everyone
Yes.
thinks that they're unique in this. And it's like the woman with the Chanel bag and the Maseratis probably has a work like liabilities out the caboose that in your balance sheet is way better. So stop comparing yourself.
Yes, yes, it's true. Although
Yeah.
I don't feel bad about investing in Chanel because I feel like it always, I mean, it will always hold its value, right?
I agree. I absolutely agree, but not if you have to put it on a credit card. I mean, the
Right?
things I see in Los Angeles, I mean, come on,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, for
like
sure.
it's crazy.
Everything
Yeah.
is for show. I mean, well, especially like you're saying, because you came from like the reality TV world where you're seeing all of these people living these lives that maybe are not authentic and not real, so that's an interesting perspective. I know we do see a lot here in LA.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to share like a stat that I looked up because it's always shifting and evolving. But there's a analyst firm called Cerulli, Cerulli, and they do private research, in the financial world, in the industry, and they looked at the next, well, between now and 2048, how much money is going to be transferring down to women. So this is something that's unbelievable. So $40 trillion expected to transfer to widows, to women, female widows, and then 47 trillion to transfer to the next generation. So we're in our midlife and these older parents, that like this is what we have to really be thinking about is, are we prepared for this? What does it feel like? And not waiting until it happens and then being like deer in the headlights, like starting to really work on your financial wellness, which by the way, I think that this is, financial wellness foundation for financial health. I mean, for excuse me, for health. Like if you feel like really confident and clear in your financial world, you will, like I'm telling you, attract the right partner, attract the right job, get fit, be inspired. Because I don't think people don't understand, women don't understand how toxic their relationship with money is and how much it's preventing them from thriving in other parts of their world. Like
It's
it's
all tied in, right?
totally,
Yeah, and
you know,
it's like it's another stressor if it's not in a good place. Like that affects your nervous system, which, as we know in midlife, our nervous systems are already frazzled, and the biological changes are happening. And
I
so,
mean, give me
yes,
HRT,
yeah, right. So like the perimenopause and the menopause, and it's like all these things.
Maybe by the 13-year-old daughter it's like at both at the same time, it's crazy, but like I think women are often just like wait until the new job, wait until I find a partner, wait until this to make these big financial moves. And like that is again shotgun in the foot.
Yes, don't live
No,
in the future, like live in the now, like live right now, right?
totally.
Yeah, that's very important. How do we get, because you brought up the 13-year-old, makes me think of my daughter as well, who's a preteen.
Mine just turned 10 last week, so I'm like,
Oh,
ready to
nice.
yay, but
Yay. I
here it
know.
comes.
all the things are like on the cusp of happening, right? How do we get our kids, especially in that like age group of like the tweens and the teens, and how do we get them excited about their financial future and about, being involved and being investors and all of those things?
You have a lemonade stand as soon as they're able to stand up. I'd love to teach well, I did lemonade stands when I was growing up. I would go door to door. So it was like 100% point of sale. But I think it's so important to teach children young and make it fun about, okay, here's a startup cost or something. You have $30 to go to Target. You buy the lemons, you buy the, country made, whatever it is. We bake the cookies. Here's the profit that we get. You got to pay me back for what the cost, the investor cost, the startup was. And then from that money, there's these amazing little physical kind of piggy banks. We say, okay, how much are we going to save? How much are we going to spend? And how much are we going to donate? And really teaching them those three buckets, of life, I think really builds that like principle. And so now when my kids earn money, it's like, okay, I deserve to spend, a certain amount of this money. I deserve to save it. And I also just, I'm going to give some to charity. So I think that's a really great way of thinking about it. And then as kids get older, I like that, what's it, the green light card? That one of those cards that you can put money, on the balance of that card, and you can kind of track their spending, and they can, I used to not get my allowance until I balanced my checking book. So it's like, finding that.
Yes, the old balance checking book. I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like making enterprising fun for kids to learn about businesses and making money and making the world a better place.
Yeah. Should we have our kids? There was I'm now of course perimenopause brain. I'm blanking on the actual name for it, but where we make our kids employees of our companies, like if they're LLCs or what have you, and pay them a certain amount. I think it's like, is it 13,000 a year? That's like tax free for them. Like, do you recommend doing things like that?
Yes. I mean, so TikTok makes it seem a lot easier and legal to do that than it actually is. And so it's a state by state thing. And you have to look at both like IRS law as well as like child labor law, in that state. So, but here's the bottom line I can say in California. If you have a family owned business, a podcast, for example, and you want to hire a 10 or 11 or 12-year-old to, uh, pick up the trash at an event or, do something to help your business, that's a legitimate thing. And that's a real thing, right? So there's a certain amount you can pay them. They can fund a Roth IRA from earned income. That's all great. But if you don't have a family business, and you want to hire your kid to do something, like technically that's not going to cut it if you're audited, because it has to be like a family business with the state of California. Um, and if you have a podcast and you want to pay your 1-year-old to pick up trash, well, that's also not going to cut it if you're audited on like the child labor law side, because a 1-year-old can't pick up trash. And so, there's a real, and a lot of, and this is definitely something you want to talk to like your attorney about and your CPA about, but you'll find when you actually ask professionals this question, they're very wishy-washy because, it has to be it's not as easy as they make it sound.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Self-employed, that's the first thing to think
Okay.
about. It's relevant. And then the age of the child is the second thing. And that the job they're doing is actually something they could do at that age for that business.
Yes, that they could physically like do themselves. Okay. These are all very good points. What do you think are like the three things that a midlife woman could do tonight to ensure the best outcome for her financial future in the next, let's say, like year, like the next 12 months? What are like three things she could do like right away to kind of get herself on a good trajectory for that?
So I would say number one, and I have a great, there's some giveaways and things I want to talk about with you too, just for your audience. So, but I have a really beautiful template. I hate monthly budgets. Let me just say that. People are surprised when I say that, because every person, Homo sapiens, cannot live on a budget. They can't.
Not how life works. You need to talk to my husband about that, because I try to tell him that all the time. I'm like, hello.
However, every month is different. Like, stop, because people are like, I can do it, and they fail. And then they're like, oh, it's just me. Everybody. However, I need you to fill out a monthly budget. I call it the joy equation. What does it cost to live a joyful life? So you get an idea. Travel, it's an exercise, right? And so filling that out, and then looking at how much cash you have. So let's say it's your joy equation is $10,000, right? So and you have a consistent flow of income. You really should not have more than 30 to 60,000 in your cash reserves, bank accounts, high yield savings, unless that money is earmarked for something. Does that make sense?
Okay,
Earmark
yes.
for taxes, earmark for down payment, earmark for tuition. But if it's just an emergency fund, you would not believe. Like I'll find someone that has $360,000 of cash if they spend 10,000 a month. That's 3 years of cash. I'm like,
Wow.
what is this for? And they're
Yeah.
like, what is this? What is the intention? What is the intention
Right.
for this money? And they're like, I don't know. It's just like my emergency fund. I'm like, wow,
3 years of an emergency fund. I
that's
mean,
a really big
yeah.
emergency. They're like, yeah. I'm like, that's big. And so that would be the first thing I would say is, and I can share the template, is figure out what your joy equation is. Multiply, that by, if you're a business owner and you have real lumpy variable income, I would keep at least 12 months of expenses. That's that way, with the roller coaster, you're safe in that down year. But, and get anything above and beyond that 3, 6, or 12 months, depending on your income situation, working for you.
Meaning
Invest it. Let me be
investing.
clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In a diversified way. So what does that mean? Well, you have some, U.S. stocks, international stock. You just find a great ETF that has a globally diversified index fund. I know that seems really overwhelming, but just type in globally diversified index fund. You'll find one. They're all over the place.
Just
It
rolls
doesn't
off the
matter if
tongue.
it's Schwab or
Yeah.
Vanguard or
Right,
Blackrock.
right.
Honestly, it's all the same, right? So that's the first thing. And again, I can share that template with everybody. The second thing that I would do, and you can do this either by finding a financial advisor that can build a life design and financial plan for you, or there's software, that you can find. And, if it's a software, like just typing in, like, here's your age, date of birth. I have this much in 401k pre-tax. I have this much in Roth. I have this much in cash. Like if I want to be work optional or retire at this age, like how am I on track or not? And I think that's such a big step because people don't want to do that because even if they are on track, like I said before, Roxy, they think that they're not. And so they're literally shot in the foot again, not looking at the reality because they're afraid of like where they may be. And if they're not in a good place, they need to know that. And that should be an empowering, like, okay, let's go. I'm not there. I'm ready. Let's turn that. Or and if they are there, it should be, now how do I accelerate?
Right.
And the third thing that I would do, and this is not as sexy, but really important, if you are in between 45 and 60, it's really important that you look into long-term care insurance. So, what is long-term care insurance? It is, Medicare is beautiful for many, many things. It's great, insurance coverage for, chronic things and medications and all that. But our country does not take care of us as we get old, just because we get old, right? So it is so important. And if you wait till after 60, even after 57, it gets so expensive because everybody uses it. So it's so expensive. So locking in long-term care, meaning if you're unable to take care of yourself, whether it's old age or just you got into a car accident or God forbid you lose a leg or, you know, it's important for you to have that coverage to be able to pay the 10, 15, or $20,000 a month, depending on what state you live in. It's going to cost for you to have in-home care or to go to a facility that doesn't have cockroaches in it.
Right, right. And both of those are expensive options, they're both expensive.
Yeah, because nobody wants their kids to take, if they, and a lot of, so, and it's one of these things that you don't want to face because you're facing all these other things of morbidity and like, oh my God, long-term care. I'm 48. What you talking about? I'm going. Like, if you don't think about it now, it's going to be too late. And if you have an early long-term care event for whatever reason, that's going to be the biggest pressure in your cash flow than anything. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. What about if a woman is looking at her, financial setup and is finding that she is not in the place where she wants to be? And I mean, and she's starting to panic. Like, what can she do to kind of turn the tides?
Here's another concept. So, I hate monthly budgets, but I love what we call a planning budget. Okay. So here's the concept of this, and this is what I walk my clients through as part of the life design and all of that. But you can do it on your own. First step is to fill out that joy equation, that monthly expenses. Okay. To get to the planning budget, which is the amount that we can plan with, the amount that we can dedicate of new dollars coming in from income towards wealth, towards net worth building, towards goals. So if you take your gross income, this is what my job is for my clients initially. Gross income, let's get the taxes down as much as possible. Let's get that bill to the IRS down. So gross income less taxes, that's what net of what you get to live off of or what you get to save. So from that bucket, you with me? Okay. We then take out the joy equation. What does it cost to live a joyful life? And then whatever's left over is the planning budget, which needs to be put to work intentionally year after year. Okay. What most people do is they say, let me live my life. I'm in it. And like, oh, I have another extra 500. I have an extra 1,000. I'll just throw it into this account. And they try and manage their flow, their growth by their monthly expenses, which is, again, failure. So if we can flip the frame and just say, okay, in the ecosystem, 3, 6 to 12 months of cash, anything above and beyond should be working. But what about dollars coming in? We automate our 401ks, those that are W-2. Boom, boom, boom. That's a planning budget of up to $24,500 a year if you're doing it that you don't even think about because it's boom, boom, boom. So above and beyond that, what else can we automate? So if you don't have a planning budget after you've gone through that, then you need to reduce your spending. You should have goal planning budget of 20% of gross income. If you make 100,000, the goal for the planning budget should be 20,000. Okay. So when you go through that exercise, if you don't have a planning budget, then you need to reduce your spending. I'm sorry. If you do the planning budget, and a lot of times people go through it and they're like, it says I have 2,000 left over a month, but I don't. Yeah, because it's a leaky bucket. So what you need to do is automate it. Automate it. You automate your 401k. Open up an individual or joint investment account. That's a non-retirement account. Put $1,000 a month in. Automate it. Put $250 into your kids' 529s. Automate it. Right? And so people will say, oh, but what if I do that? I'm not going to be able to go on the trip or, test it for 3 months. And if you come back to me and you tell me that your life is so miserable and you have no joy because then we'll change it. But try it. I have not had one person ever come back to me and need to change it. I promise you, this is thousands of people. Our brain, again, is telling us, stay inside the cave. There's a saber-toothed tiger out there that's going to get you. No,
Right.
get out, try,
Totally.
pivot, flip. And that's why our firm's called RIPPL too, because we're like, it's like the ripple effect, but also all the snow melting and it becomes a stream, there's a boulder, and you go it's like life is intrinsic and always flexible and moving and flowing, so get on board.
Yes, get on board. And then that is a good point too. It's always flexible. It's always changeable. I think that too is like a block that people have. It's like, well, if I do it this way, then it has to stay this way forever and ever and ever. And it's like, no, you can always change, right? You can always be
You do
flexible.
$1,000 a month into your investment account, and in 2 months, you can just stop it.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how hard it is for people need to get them just to test this. That's the word I use.
Yeah.
Test it.
Just
For
to
3
test
months.
it. Just,
And then they're like 3 months later, they come back for their prelim strat session meeting, and they're like, "You're right, I didn't notice it." I'm like, "Baby,
You're like,
time value of money."
yes, listen to you, you know what you're talking about. And so what else should people know about Ripple? What if they want to, become a part of Ripple and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. So, we're based in Los Angeles. We have clients all over the country. It has to be US based, so clients all over the country. Our website it's Ripples, no E. So it's RIPPL.NM as in New Mexico.com. And we're women led. So I have a partner who's a woman as well. We're a team of 8 people. We do fee-based planning, which means we charge a flat fee for planning. And the fees can be anywhere from, as low as 2,000 a year for all the counsel and advice, up to I had fees of 50,000 a year. It was a very complex estate. We do 7 meetings in the first year and then 2 meetings thereafter. So it's a lot of foundational, like, planning. But we do it in a way that's not overwhelming. It's concise, it's clear, it's fun, it's exciting. And like I said, we really want to democratize that planning space. But one of the things too is, I believe when I'm thinking about that word democratize, it's not just make it accessible to all different types of people and demographics and net worth, but it's also like, I have clients that have a 9-figure net worth that, I'm bringing them 10-figure net worth strategies for the nine. And then the 9-figure net worth strategy I'm bringing to the eight. And the 8-figure net worth strategy I'm bringing to the seven. So there's so many things that someone that has 500,000 of net worth, or it makes, 250,000 a year, there's so many strategies out there that aren't brought to them, and they should be at scale. And so that's like, we really want to simplify and create confidence and peace for our clients, user experience, and educate them, not make them an expert because they only really want to know like what time it is, not how the clock is made. Right. Um,
They don't
right.
wanna see the sausage being made.
Right. It's like, I just
Right?
want to eat the sausage. But also like up level the sophistication. Another big thing we do, we don't do your taxes. I'm not going to do tax returns, but we are, I think, what most people expect their CPA to be, which is proactive, big idea thinking about, you think, hey, what if we did this? We could trim 10% off, when you take the money out in 10 years, whatever it is. So we're kind of future tax planners. So our process, and I'd say, I was thinking about this before I talked to my COO. And so we would like to offer, so we do 30-minute one-on-one consults, that we typically charge for, that we would offer kind of free, complimentary, I guess I should say, consults to like your listeners. We'll do up to 30, by May 1st. So for the first 30 that reach out and mention that they listen to this podcast, we'll do that complimentary session, which really what that is we can get to know your financial world, share some templates and tools with you, talk about how we could add value if it makes sense, because we're interviewing you too. Like, it's not like we're, but ultimately what you'll walk away with is like more clarity and confidence about your current plan if you have one, or how to start one if you don't. And then, if it feels like there's value and synergy, then we can talk about engaging in a partnership. So, yeah, we wanted to cap it at 30. So, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very helpful. Oh my gosh, everyone listening should definitely jump in on that, I mean, just to get
Yeah.
that knowledge even for that, that much time. That's a wonderful thing. So thank you for that. Turning the gears a little bit, I wanted to ask you about your 25-year-old self. And first of
Okay.
all, what did she look like? What was she doing? What did she look like? Like, how was her life going? And what advice you would give her now?
Dude, I've always been a hustle girl. Like, at 25, let's see, I moved out to Los Angeles right around my 25th birthday. And so when I got into the entertainment world, I was an assistant, and I was kind of an old assistant because, you're kind of like, 21, 22 typically. And so, I was fluent in Spanish. I'd lived in South America for a year. I got into a really cool company called RIPPL that did like The Office and Ugly Betty and The
Oh,
Biggest Loser. And so I was
cool.
on the NBC Universal backlot, like thinking I was the queen of, Hollywood, like 6 months after work, like the trolley would go by and I would hide pretending that I was famous, whatever. Like,
Totally. You're like,
but,
I
but
made
I think,
it.
yeah, I mean, I would do anything in the sense that, I mean, like, I think it's so important to no task is below you, no task is above you, no assignment is below or above you in that time in your life. And so I was working with a bunch of dudes. It was me and like 12 dudes at this company. Okay. And the fridge was disgusting. I remember one night just cleaning out the fridge, and they come in, it was like the biggest thing, and then I created a path for myself. Like, there were so many holes that needed attention, that needed systems, that needed, that I just started, building an acquisitions pipeline. Things would come in and I would start to track them. And so I created my own role. And I think if you can have that kind of, uh, you know, um, proactive ability to say, I see a place that needs time and attention, and I'm going to provide a solution. So that's where I was. And I'm so proud of what I did in entertainment. I moved up quickly, and I was really good at it, and I got to travel and, just but I just got to this point where I'm like, I was put on this planet to impact in a bigger way, and reality television and Jersey Shore wasn't the wow.
Yeah, totally, totally. And that was
You know?
such the, like, dawn of reality TV too at that time. I mean,
Oh
that
my
was,
god,
like, the high, like, I mean, it was, like, huge,
huge! It was
right?
the top of its game.
The
Yeah.
top of its game. I mean, were you working on specific shows with reality?
Yeah, so I worked at a studio called Fremantle for most of my career, which did really big formats. So American Idol, America's Got Talent, Price is Right, Family Feud, all of these big shows. And so a lot of the work that we would do is I would go to Cannes twice a year. And, at one point there was like 65 American Idols, meaning Australian Idol and Dubai Idol and all of these things across the world that were happening. And so that was my job to sell those formats to other countries and Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, all of those things. So that was one part of my job that was really fun, working on those like big shiny, they called the shiny floor game shows, shiny floor, show, The Voice, things of that nature. Um, and then the other part of it was I would acquire what we call finished tape, so U.S. shows that were produced. So let's think of like remember like Deadliest Catch that was on History, like that show. So that show created a whole spawn of different types of reality shows that were like male focused, and so I would do deals with the networks, the production companies, and I would say, hey, like let's sell this US show, to Australia or to France or to whatever. And that was before things were global, where you had to literally do a deal to license the rights to air and show one country to the other. Now it's just like Netflix global. Uh,
Yeah. I totally everything you goes to Netflix and it's, like, everywhere, you know?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow. What
exactly.
yeah, you just
So
I mean, I think people look at it and they're like, "Oh, it's all glamour because it's entertainment," but that's what I tell people all the time too. I'm like, "It is so the not glamorous when you're in
I,
it."
Dude, I'm so glad that I'm not in entertainment anymore. I mean, the amount of clients I have in the entertainment world that are just like, "How do I get out?" And that's one of the things that we've been doing is transition plans. I love helping especially midlife, like, it's like, "Well, I've been doing this my whole life, so, like, how do I transition out of this or move into consulting or," and I have the golden handcuffs of the equity compensation or whatever it is, like, I love that kind of work because I did it and I know it's possible, but you just have to have a plan. Right? It's like, we have enough cash flow for this long, and then we do this, and then if it doesn't work, guess what? You go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Totally. Totally. Like, people should not, it's there's always possibility, like, always possibility, whether it's a career pivot, a divorce, some big life change, there's always a way to, work around that, financially
divorce,
speaking.
yeah.
So, what is the biggest lesson you've learned in midlife?
God, I was grateful to my mother for, like, raising me in a very, like, conscious universe. Like, I read Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now at 21, and it totally changed my life just about the present and, just really, like, controlling what you can control you know, um I remember reading once really early on that women's intuition is one of the most powerful, if not like the most powerful tool in existence. That's a big statement. And that we typically only use about 10% of our intuition when we know, we feel, and we know something, and our body is telling us something, or it's telling us something, but we suppress it and we put it down. And so I think in midlife, I try and increase, the amount of intuition I listen to by a percent per year.
That's good. That's a positive change.
So I'm at like 35%. My team is like, "Don't you go over 50. We have to use data and analysis to make decisions." I'm like, "This just feels right. Let's go with this." They're like, "Okay,
Totally.
Haley, we appreciate your visionary aspect." But so I just think like really paying attention and creating space to pay attention to your intuition.
Yeah, I like that compounded intuition.
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, because we all have it, we all know it. Eventually, it's gonna come out, so listen to it.
It very rarely leads you the wrong way. It's usually
Right.
exactly where you need to go, you know?
I tell my clients when I'm kinda giving my initial deck presentation, like, that as part we have a financial freedom formula, which is our five-step wealth building system, and the fifth step is, being uncomfortably comfortable, is I wanna, trademark that, of just I love Jen Sincero's Badass book. I read that book when I was leaving entertainment and moving, and she had a quote in there that says, like, "If you wanna live a life you've never lived, you have to do things you've never done." And I feel like that with finances, so I'm sitting there telling someone, like, "Listen, if you want someone that's gonna be sit back and let you make emotional, logical choices with your money, like, don't partner with me because I'm on your team, but we are gonna talk about why are you making this decision? What is and I want you to be uncomfortably comfortable. That's gonna feel scary, and it should because vulnerability, thank you, Brene Brown, right, is a synonym to courage. That's what it is. We have a lot of courage in our midlife with our money. Uh, we haven't been taught how to do that.
Yes. Reprogramming ourselves to think about money a totally different way than what we've been used to, you
And
know?
it's not that hard, I'm telling you, it does not
Oh,
take a ton of time. You just have to cry, like, 20% of people cry the first time they talk to you, within 10 minutes.
really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and they come in like, "Why am I here? This is another bullshit financial advice, and then they realize that they have a huge barrier inside of them. They have this whole stuff that's been locked up, and it comes out, and it's overwhelming, and we honor it, we look at it, and we say, "This is it. So are you are you ready to elevate?" And it's like, that's the first step though, is, changing your mindset and acknowledging the limiting beliefs that you have around money, acknowledging them, seeing them, feeling them, and then dispelling them and creating new beliefs.
That's a good point. That's a good point. How are you living iconically right now?
I have decided to the statement when you say in 2 or 3 years, I will blank, I'm doing it now. And it's crazy. Like, I said, the reason why I'm here talking to you, I said in 2 or 3 years, I'm going to hire an amazing public relations team that can see me and help me get the message out because I cannot get this message out with a one-on-one conversation with every woman I talk to. I need to write books. I have to scale the message. I have to show people what's possible with their money, but it's always like in 2 or 3 years, like, the cost, the time, the whatever. And then I just said, you know what? Like, the time is now. What am I waiting for? And so I think that's what's making me, live this iconic life because I'm in the space of putting myself out there in a way that I haven't. And with that comes haters and that comes, just more vulnerability. So I try and walk my talk, you
Yes.
know.
Well, and
Uh,
a lot less fucks, as I like to say too.
dude, degaff. Yeah. I
Yeah.
actually crush like the first 5 minutes of talking to a potential person I'm inviting into the firm to see if that like offends them. Cause if it does, it's like, you're out.
Yeah.
I can't serve you if you think fuck is like an offensive word.
Exactly. It's an everything word. It's a verb, it's a
Like, come
noun, it's an
on,
adverb.
get over yourself. Yeah,
Totally.
and at the same time, I feel like, I'm really a part I have a 7-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl, and, um, I'm really present for them. Like, when I'm present, I'm present, and, um, and I'm really proud of that as well. I think that that's iconic as well because these years pass
Oh,
so
so
fast, right?
fast.
And so, like,
Yes. Yes. No, that's a good thing. At the end of the day, I mean, that's what everyone says on their deathbed. It's not, the accolades or what you did. It's like who you loved, your relationships, like all of those things are the things that really, really matter, you know?
what about you?
Gosh, I feel like for the first time, I'm really living, I feel like authentically to who I am, like not giving as many fucks as we were just saying, and like kind of
Mhm.
just being whoever, I'm meant to be, like, right then and there, not really, and being able to put myself out there without thinking about what people are going to think too, I think is a really big thing for me. It's like, you know what? I could look like I'm not going to be, as that saying goes, you can be the sweetest peach in the basket and somebody is not going to like you. It's like,
Yeah.
I am never going to be for everybody. I am only here for, me and for the people I love and the people that matter to me, and that's fine. And I don't need to be everybody's favorite, but like, I just think as living as true to myself without giving, all that care and consideration to the things that don't matter and the people that don't matter, I think that has like been really important for me, especially like,
So relating.
yes, going into this like midlife time, and I think just being as secure as possible with who I am. Now, there's obviously days where I'm like, oh my God, I feel like shit about myself, like I'm having a down day or whatever that is. I think that's normal. But at like the end of the day, just to know, I'm okay with who I am, I think is a big step, you know?
So I want to ask you, I know this is not, but I imagine, again, I know we're just meeting each other and I can't wait to get to know you better and hopefully call you friend and things. But like, I bet people looking from the outside at you would think you've had that kind of for 10 years, I bet. I mean, so like I bet they think that, and so like when do you think you really shifted into I am really authentically me? Because there's been some element of that for a long time, I'm sure, but was there a shift or something that made you like really
Yeah,
connect?
I think it was maybe a combination of things. I think it's age, like getting older. Once I sort of hit like, I would say mid 40s and things, like I started just having so much more life experience and, having, my friends, my best friends are my same friends I've had for 30 years, like since college. And, so I think having that, also having my daughter, I had her as an older, quote unquote, what they call a geriatric pregnancy, I guess.
Yes,
I'm
right.
like,
High risk.
yeah,
High risk.
totally.
Yeah.
High risk
Yeah.
geriatric. I had her at 39. So I think because I had her and then like as she started coming of age, like when I was in my 40s, I really had, thankfully, I feel like that life experience behind me where I wasn't, and not that it's not a good thing to have kids when you're younger, but I feel like I lived so much life at that point that I was
Hmm.
more secure in who I was. So I think having her, I also wanted to be a good role model to her, in a lot of ways. So, I think being secure in myself would only help her be more secure in who she was. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I pretty much do what I do for her. I want her to have,
Yeah.
all the things and like be that secure person and know who she is, and I think the only way that she's going to learn from me about that is if I role model it myself.
I love
So,
that.
thank you.
Well, thank
I'm
you
looking
for all
forward.
you do for this beautiful
Oh,
community, and
thank
it's just
you.
it's takes a lot of courage and
Thank you.
guts to get out there and have these hard conversations in a way that's real and authentic. And I always say, like, I like to shock people, like, like I like to say things or have a hot take and something that's shocking.
Exactly. Exactly. Because you know what? It doesn't matter what the fuck, like the people who don't like it or
Yeah,
what, you know what I mean? It's like, who cares? Good. Good. Shock them.
yeah,
Like make
good.
people think
Don't follow me.
differently. Yeah.
Unsubscribe.
Yes. Totally. 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 I think it goes back to our Texas roots too. Like
It
you're
totally does.
right? Because in Texas,
Yeah,
like when you grow up,
yeah.
you are tough. Like you are like, what the fuck is up,
If we
It's
come back and do another one, we should do big hair.
yes. Oh my God. We should totally do like Texas themed, like do like a whole
Yeah,
Texas themed episode. We'll have like big
so
hair,
good.
sparkly
Yeah, and then we
makeup.
do switch and guac and margaritas afterwards, or during,
Yes.
or
Yeah, or
during.
during, or during. I do love a margarita.
Oh, girl, give me a silver coin all day. So
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. Okay. You have to tell everybody where they can find you.
yes, so I imagine you'll put something in the show notes, right? Of
Yes.
just like so. Um, So I'll include just you can go onto the website and fill out the form and reach out to me. I'll also include my email. You can reach out to me there and yeah, I would love to just to connect and impact and see where it takes us. I'm addicted to this. I'm addicted to it. And it's a
So good.
and it's lovely. I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed.
It's
To have
wonderful.
found this why.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You found your calling, your purpose. I
I
mean,
found my
that's pretty
calling. And
iconic.
like you can make great money doing something I love that's really truly changing people's lives. It's like, hello. We're hiring too if there's any financial advisors out there looking to leave some of these big firms that aren't male led. So heads up.
It's all about the women coming together, the midlife women,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yes.
Come
We're so
on.
powerful. We're so
That's
powerful.
so powerful. So powerful. I
And hot.
love Yeah, and hot. Always. Always hot. Requirement.
Oh my god! It's one of my friends when she introduces herself. She's so funny. I'm gonna have to send her this episode, but instead of saying like it's nice to meet you, she goes, "It's so lovely for you to meet me. What a wonderful opportunity for you to get to know me."
Oh my God, that's so
Funny. It said
good.
it in a cute way. I didn't do it as well, but it was like it's so cute. She's like, "How fortunate for you to be able to spend time with me." Okay. So great. So,
She's like, I'm so glad I
yeah,
can bestow myself on you.
true. Full gift. I love it. Yeah.
That's
Thanks for the
amazing.
opportunity too.
Oh,
This has been
thank
so fun,
you.
and
Thank
hopefully
you.
people
So
feel
fun.
like empowered and money doesn't have to be heavy. Like, let's
Yes.
go.
Let's go. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. So thank you so much, Hayley. It's been a pleasure. And be sure you come back on Thursday for Hayley's game episode because we are playing a very fun financial game and you're not going to want to miss it. This was a necessary conversation because money in midlife isn't just about spreadsheets or retirement projections. It's about freedom. It's about knowing you have options, and it's about being able to make decisions from clarity instead of fear. If something in this episode challenged you or gave you that little nudge to finally look at your numbers, ask harder questions, or take ownership in a new way, don't ignore that feeling. Midlife isn't the time to shrink financially. It's the time to sharpen. If you found value in today's conversation, here's what I'd love for you to do. First, share this episode with one woman in your life who deserves to feel powerful about her money. Second, leave a quick review on any podcast platform. These reviews genuinely help this show reach more smart, ambitious women who need these conversations. And if you want more bold guests, unfiltered stories, and iconic midlife perspective delivered straight to your inbox, join the Inner Circle. The link is in the show notes. We are not doing midlife quietly. We're doing it informed. We are doing it intentional, and we are absolutely doing it on our own terms.